but I am blessed and I'm happy to be here. And we're going to be talking all about The Alchemist. But this, guys, is the graphic novel. Y'all see that? Graphic novel. See? So there's like actual pictures. Look at that. Pretty cool stuff. So if you have read The Alchemist and you are a fan of the book, I would definitely love for you to join the conversation and make sure that you share your thoughts, share your lessons, all of that really cool stuff. If you are totally brand spanking new to this book, then I have some really interesting notes that I'm going to be sharing from Spark Notes because I'm all about Spark Notes. I don't know if you guys used them when you were in school, but I definitely enjoyed using them. And I figured it would be a good opportunity to shout them out. So let's do that. So again, just from an intro perspective, my name's Natasha Nurse. If you aren't aware of who I am the owner and co-founder of Dressing Room 8. I am a blogger. I am a coach. I am a public speaker. I am an influencer. I'm a model. I am a podcaster. I do everything and anything if you speak to me. Very Jamaican, very productive, very active, and I love my entire life. I essentially, all of it combined, all the different things that I'm doing, educating people on how to curate a life, a lifestyle, a business for themselves that resonates authentically with who they are, what they want out of this world, and how they can move forward with their dreams, right? And cut the self-doubt, cut the self-hatred, cut the what if I don't do this? None of that. All about moving forward, all about emphasizing who they are and how to make it work for whatever they want to do. And if you're new to the Dressing Room 8 book club meetings, essentially what I designated maybe a little bit over a year ago now is I wanted to really make sure that I started reading more because to me, reading is the basis of everything. If you're not reading, if you're not learning, you're not living. You don't know everything. You will never know everything. So how do you improve that? You improve that by learning, right? Reading. And so I read a book every month, but really the goal is to read probably between 4 and 10 books a month. And do I always hit it? No, I don't always hit it, but I definitely hit at least one book. And this month, again, we are reading The Alchemist. It's beautiful. Beautiful book. You guys should totally get it. And I chose the graphic novel version because I read graphic novels. I don't know if you do, but if you don't, you are missing out because graphic novels are amazing. They are beautiful. They are descriptive. They are intimate. They are interesting. They are a really great way for you to consume content and have a pictorial story matching it. Super cool. So definitely check out graphic novels if you haven't added that to your reading repertoire, as well as definitely checking out The Alchemist. So with that, let's get started. And again, this is a conversation. So if you have questions, what do you need to do? You need to ask your girl. You need to get in here and tell me what your thoughts and your questions and comments are, and whether they're related to the book, whether it's something else, holler at your girl. I'm right here. Okay. So back to Spark Notes, I believe. Yep. Spark Notes notes. So the plot overview, let me read it to you and we'll talk about it as we go along. A reoccurring dream troubles Santiago. He is a young, adventurous Andalusian shepherd. I apologize if I said that wrong. He has the dream every time he sleeps under a sycamore tree that grows out of the ruins of a church. During the dream, a child tells him to seek treasure at the foot of the Egyptian pyramids. Santiago consults a gypsy woman to interpret this dream, and to his surprise, she tells him to go to Egypt. A strange, magical old man named Melchizedek, I sometimes struggle with names, who claims to be the king of Salem, echoes the gypsy's advice and tells Santiago that he is a personal legend to journey to the pyramids. Then Melchizedek convinces Santiago to sell his flock and set off to Tangier. When Santiago arrives in Tangier, a thief robs him, forcing him to find work with a local crystal merchant. The conservative and kindly merchant teaches Santiago several lessons, and then Santiago encourages him, the merchant, to take risks with his business, and then the risks pay off. And Santiago becomes a rich man in just a year. Then he decides to cash in his earnings and continue on his pursuit of his personal legend to find the treasure at the pyramids, right? So then he joins a caravan crossing the Sahara Desert toward Egypt and meets an Englishman who is studying to become an alchemist. He learns a lot from the Englishman during the journey. For one, he learns that the secret of alchemy is written on a stone called the Emerald Tablet. The ultimate creation of alchemy is the masterwork, which consists of a solid called Philosopher's Stone that can turn lead to gold, and a liquid called the elixir of life that can cure all ills or ailments. Santiago learns the Englishman is traveling with the caravan to the Saharan oasis of Al-Foyam, where a powerful 200-year-old alchemist resides. And let me just adjust this. The Englishman plans to ask the alchemist the secret of his trade. As it turns out, the caravan must make an extended stop in Al-Foyam in order to avoid increasingly violent tribal wars taking place in the desert. There, Santiago falls in love with Fatima, who lives at the oasis, and during a walk in the desert, Santiago witnesses an omen that portends an attack on the historically neutral oasis. He warns the tribal chieftains of the attack, and as a result, Al-Foyam successfully defends itself against the assault. The alchemist gets word of Santiago's vision and invites Santiago on a trip into the desert, during which he teaches Santiago about the importance of listening to his heart and pursuing his personal legend. Story is long, guys. He convinces Santiago to leave Fatima and the caravan for a time to finish his journey to the pyramids, and he offers to accompany Santiago on the next leg of his trip. While the alchemist and Santiago continue through the desert, the alchemist shares much of his wisdom and the soul of the world. They are mere days away from the pyramids when a tribe of Arab soldiers capture them, and in exchange for his life and the life of Santiago, the alchemist hands over to the tribe all of Santiago's money and tells the soldiers that Santiago is a powerful alchemist who will turn into wind within 3 days. Santiago feels alarmed because he has no idea how to turn into wind. And over the next 3 days, he contemplates the desert. On the third day, he communicates with the wind and the sun and coaxes them to help him create a tremendous sandstorm. He prays to the hand that wrote all, and at the height of the storm, he disappears. He reappears on the other side of the camp, and the tribesmen were awed by the power of the storm and by Santiago's ability. Let him and the alchemist go free. The alchemist continues to travel with Santiago as far as a Coptic monastery several hours from the pyramids. There, he demonstrates to Santiago his ability to turn lead into gold using the Philosopher's Stone. And then he gives Santiago gold and sends him off. Santiago begins digging for the treasure at the foot of the pyramids, but 2 men accost him and beat him. When Santiago speaks to them about his dream vision, they decide he must have no money and let him live. Before leaving, one of the men tries to illustrate the worthlessness of dreams by telling Santiago about his own dream. It concerns a treasure buried in an abandoned church in Spain where a sycamore tree grows. The church is the same one in which Santiago had his original dream, and he finally understands where his treasure is. He returns to Spain to find a chest of jewels and gold buried under the tree. He plans to return with it to Al-Foyam, where he will reunite with Fatima, who awaits him. So, in essence, what happened in the story? He went on this really elaborate journey because he had kind of, I guess, a prophecy that his treasure, his personal wealth was going to be radically improved by this journey, this epic journey to go to Egypt and get what he really wants. But what ends up happening? He goes on a journey. Things don't go exactly how he wants. He has to sell stuff, he has to lose stuff, but then he gains knowledge, he gains wisdom, he gains money. He actually meets the love of his life, but then ultimately, where was the treasure that he needed all along? It was right literally under him, under that bloody tree that he was sleeping in under in the beginning of the story. So I think there's a lot of different lessons there. I think, life is definitely a journey. Life is definitely unpredictable. There are heartaches, there are heartbreaks, but there are also moments of immense beauty and love and passion. And sometimes we have to go on a journey that takes us all over the world, all in different places of uncomfortability, for us to sometimes just arrive back in the original place stronger, wiser, more profound, and more capable of doing what we didn't think we could do before we started the journey. So that's what's really interesting about that story. There's a couple of quotes that SparkNotes kind of hones in on, so I'm happy to go through that, and I'll share kind of my thoughts on that. One of the quotes is, whoever you are or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because that desire originated in the soul of the universe. It's your mission on Earth. Interesting, right? So according to the notes shared by SparkNotes, the statement which Melchizedek, hell of a name, says to Santiago upon their first meeting forms the foundation of the philosophy of the Alchemist. Essentially, he says that dreams are not silly or selfish desires that should be ignored. Instead, they serve as the primary means by which people can get in touch with the mystical force that connects everything in the universe. He convinces Santiago that his nagging desire to visit the pyramids is actually a calling. And he sets Santiago on his journey of spiritual discovery. By associating seemingly selfish human desires with the soul of the universe, the alchemist presents a form of spirituality that differs radically from traditional religions that espouse self-denial. Instead of practicing sympathy by identifying with and helping others, Santiago must focus on his own personal dreams. So there's a lot there. I think personally, when I hear that phrase, and I'll just pull out some of the words, like whoever you are or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because the desire originated in the soul of the universe. It's your mission on Earth. Essentially, what is it saying? You are more than just flesh and bone, right? And maybe a spirit if you believe in that. But ultimately, your desires, who you are in this world, has a deeper meaning. It has a deeper connection. It has a deeper purpose. And what you want, sometimes we have wishes and goals, and it's just because we're coming from the perspective of self. But is it really our dream, or is it a part of the fabric of our universe? Is it a part of the fabric of what's going to change this world, right? So when people say, like for instance, Barack Obama, right? When his parents got together, did they know that they were going to have a child who was going to be the first Black president of America? No, they didn't, right? They had an intimate moment of love, hopefully, and it created a powerful change in this world. Someone they created changed the face of this country, changed the face of this world, right? By one act. Isn't that interesting, right? And so just even the act of wanting to make passionate love with your partner ended up creating a person who changed the face of this world. So our desires to have children, our desires to build businesses, our desires to write books are more than just our self-desires. They're more than just, this is what I want, but it's a part of, it's a wish, it's a dream of the universe, right? And so that's interesting. I don't know if you believe that or not. I think if you do believe on it, I think it makes you feel more connected, right? I feel it makes you feel more powerful, that your decisions have a greater impact than you think they do. And then it also makes you more conscientious as to the type of footprint you're leaving on this earth, right? Because when you go and you don't recycle, it's not just affecting you, right? It's affecting the universe. It's affecting whales. It's affecting animals and things that you don't even know exist in this world, right? And then same thing, when you decide to have a family, you don't know what your kid is going to be. Your kid could change the face of technology, right? Did Mark Zuckerberg's parents know that they were going to create someone who created Facebook, which changed the face of social media? No. They were having a good time. They had a kid and they were like, cool, that's awesome, right? They didn't have a freaking clue that was going to do that. When people build buildings, did they know that was going to, right? Like people, you just don't know the impact for which how your life will make upon others and also from a global perspective. So I think that that's something to think about and really like kind of wrap your mind around that. Next quote. Every blessing ignored becomes a curse. I don't want anything else in life, but you are forcing me to look at wealth and horizons that I have never known. Now that I have seen them and now that I see how immense my possibilities are, I'm going to feel worse than I did before you arrived because I know the things I should be able to accomplish and I don't want to do so. Right? So this is the crystal merchant says these words to Santiago as Santiago prepares to leave Tangier after an extremely successful year working at the crystal shop. The crystal merchant expresses a regret common among many ancillary characters in The Alchemist, such as the baker, and Santiago's father. He knows that he has not achieved all he can in life and feels depressed as a result. The crystal merchant serves as a warning to Santiago that those who ignore their personal legends in favor of settling into material comforts always feel haunted by their untapped potential. So what essentially is that quote all about? The sentence of, you know, every blessing ignored becomes a curse. I think what it's saying is when you tap into that space of success, that space of like, ooh, I did this, we did this, and then you don't move forward and you knowingly have that kind of feeling and regret that you could do more, but you're choosing not to, either because you're comfortable, either because you're afraid, either because you're allowing kind of the unknown narrative to take a hold of your life, and you're like, I don't know how to make this bigger. I don't know if I should go forward with this. I don't know, right? And then what happens? You know that you do know by not moving forward that you're not doing enough, that you're not progressing, that you're not succeeding in a way that you know you can, right? And then that is definitely a curse. That is definitely a regret. That is definitely a life that's less worthy of who you are and what you're capable of. So, is that okay? Is that okay, right? Like, is that something that we should do? And by reading books like this, will you continue to do something like that? When you know you can succeed, when you know that you could do more and you choose not to, where does that leave you, right? And where does it allow you to live in a space of like complacency, to live in a space of, you know, I could be better. I could go and walk. I could take care of my body, but I choose not to. Will you still do that after you read something like this? Right? I'm hoping no. I think the purpose of writing such an epic novel like this, and this is written by, I apologize, Paulo Coelho. I don't think I'm saying that right, but he's like a super famous author, right? And this is one of his many books. He has several like world-renowned, famous novels, right, that he does. And I think that when you read something like that, when you touch something like this, you know, can you be the same, right? Can you just like continue to be less than just because it's easy, just because that's a narrative that you grew up with? No, right? It's just, it's not okay. It's not okay to not be your best self because the unknown is too scary. The unknown makes you uncomfortable. It's not okay. You got to do more. You got to do what's in your heart. You have to, I love that term, personal legend, right? Like, wow, like my personal legend. It's not just a dream, but it's a legacy that I'm building. It's an empire of self. Like, whoa, it's big, heavy stuff, guys, right? Big and heavy. I love it. Next quote. We are afraid of losing what we have, whether it's our life or our possessions or our property, but this fear evaporates when we understand that our life stories and the history of the world were written by the same hand. So according to SparkNotes, thank you, SparkNotes, shout out to you. Here, the camel driver addresses fear while he tells Santiago his life story during the trip to Alfeum. Fear acts as the biggest impediment to achieving one's personal legend. Santiago faces many obstacles during his journey, but he regularly feels tempted to abandon his quest when he fears losing what he has already earned. For example, Santiago initially balks at giving up his flock of sheep to Melchizedek. Hell of a name, guys. In Tangier, Santiago fears losing the money he earned with the crystal merchant. In the Oasis, Santiago fears losing Fatima. Finally, after being captured, Santiago fears he will never be able to turn into the wind. The irony of this fear stems from the fact that Santiago earns ever greater rewards each time he abandons his fear and gives up his previous possessions. So what is that saying, right? Fear is real. Fear is, when someone tells you shouldn't be fearful, I get it, right? I get when people kind of preach that method, right? It's all about wanting to be fearlessness, but we can't, to have fearlessness in our lives, but we can't deny that we don't have fear, right? Fear is, as a Casey Erin Clark of Vital Voice Training, shout out to Casey. She spoke at Long Island Girl Talk this past month, actually, yeah. And she said something that I really thought was super profound and super helpful. Fear is the cost of being a human being on this planet, right? It's just a cost of admission. So I think when people are feeling fear, I don't think we should shame people for the fear. I don't think we should say that fear doesn't exist. Fear is an absolute real emotion. Fear is an absolute real experience for us. But Is it a justification for not doing more in your life? Is it a justification for not proceeding with your personal legend? No, it is not. And so I think that is the real premise that you get from reading this book, that Santiago goes on this really epic journey, right? And I call it epic because he's traveling far lands. He's going to places he's never been. He goes, he gets robbed, he loses things, he loses the things that he you know, that he feared to lose. But at the end of the day, like as stated in these notes kind of describing the quote, that every time he lost, so I'll reread what was on Spark Notes. Santiago earns ever greater rewards each time he abandons his fear and gives up his previous possessions. So what is that saying? That is saying that when you release fear from your heart, when you release fear from your life, what are you able to do? You're able to manifest and imagine things that you did not know could happen, and it is going to be glorious for you. It is going to change your life. So there's that, right? And the next quote I wanted to share with you guys is this one. The alchemists spent years in their laboratories, observing the fire that purified the metals. They spent so much time close to the fire that gradually they gave up the vanities of the world. They discovered that the purification of the metals had led to a purification of themselves. Interesting. Very interesting. Right? So what is that about? So for Spark Notes, they talk about the Englishman relates this history to Santiago as Santiago reads a book on alchemy. The quotation summarizes the key insight that connects the practice of transforming metals through alchemy with the idea of human beings attaining spiritual perfection by pursuing their personal legends. Just as alchemists purify lead, removing its impurities to transform it into gold, a person can purify himself focusing completely on living out his personal legend. This process strips the person of impurities, transforming him as the lead is the lead is transformed. Similarly, the alchemist the Englishman speaks of did not purify themselves because they wanted to create gold, but because they became so focused on their personal legends that they rid themselves of all other concerns. The vanities of the world, as the Englishman puts it. So, what happens to us when we evolve? What happens to us when we transform? We literally change ourselves. We change our lives. When we go forward with our dreams, with our personal legend, we are literally transforming who we are. And think about that, guys. Think about that. Who you are today. How different were you 5 years ago from now? How different were you 10 years ago? I think about that all the time. I think about myself at 6. I think about myself at 16. I think about myself at 18. I think about myself at 25, right? All these difference, and I know I'm young, but nonetheless, don't be ageist. Nonetheless, I feel like I have lived and I have shed skin and kind of risen from the ashes multiple times in my lifetime. And no, I haven't lived a million years yet, but it's not about how long you've lived. It's about the quality of life you're living. It's about the wisdom that you're taking along the way, right? And it's about getting real with yourself, getting like 100% real talk with self. Right? And not like kind of living on just the surface. And when you're having feelings and thoughts and you just kind of leave it there and you're like, I won't think about it tomorrow. It'll be gone. No, get 100%. Why do I feel this way? Why am I upset with this person? Why is this driving me crazy? Why am I not moving forward with this goal? Why am I not pursuing this business? Why am I not writing this book? Right? Like all of that stuff, the lines of questions you can ask yourself over and over and over again. Why are you not pursuing your personal legend? Why are you not transforming who you are through the process of growth and development and building something for you and transforming the world while you're at it, right? It's cool stuff. And then we're coming down to the close, time. So I'm just going to go through this last quote and then we're going to talk about what's next for the book club. Okay. Last quote is, what you still need to know is this: before a dream is realized, the soul of the world tests everything that was learned along the way. It does this not because it is evil, but so that we can, in addition to realizing our dreams, master the lessons we've learned as we've moved toward that dream. That's the point at which we say in the language of the desert, one dies of thirst just when the palm trees have appeared on the horizon. Interesting, guys. So every search begins with beginner's luck, and every search ends with the victors being severely tested. The Alchemist says these last words to Santiago before the two part ways at the end of the novel. In short, the Alchemist explains to Santiago why he had to endure so many trials if the universe, as the Alchemist and others have said, does actually want him to fulfill his personal legend. Santiago, for instance, may have begun his journey with beginner's luck, although only to a limited degree, as he was immediately robbed and left penniless in Tangier. But as his quest went on, faced progressively more difficult challenges, when he must turn himself into the wind, Santiago seems as if he has to trick the elements into helping him. But as the Alchemist explains, these challenges served their own purpose to help Santiago master the lessons he had already learned. The Alchemist statement implies that the important part of our pursuing one's personal legend consists not just in reaching the final goal, whether that be turning lead into gold or finding treasure near the pyramids, but also in learning through action. Earlier in the book, the Alchemist explains this notion to Santiago using Alchemist as his example. He says the Alchemist became too focused on the gold and lost the focus on living out their personal legends. As a result, they lost the ability to perform alchemy. Santiago, meanwhile, ultimately travels through Spain into Africa and across the Sahara to the pyramids, only to learn that the treasure he seeks lies under a tree in the area where he began his trip. His transformation, however, could not have occurred without this journey and the experience he gained from living out his personal legend. Along the way, he learned to read omens, to communicate with the elements, and even turn himself into the wind. It's a hell of a book, guys. It's like such a cool freaking book. I mean, if you're not convinced to read this, I don't know what will convince you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this link for you so that you can get the book today. So where do you get the book? You get the book at dressingroommate.com, but I am going to put the link in for you so you can get it there as well. Now, if you're interested in reading more of these Spark Notes, let me give that to you as well. There we go. So you can check this out yourself, because I know sometimes people, when you read a book, you're like, you want more information, you know, all of that good stuff. I want to make sure that you have whatever you need to succeed in reading this book and hopefully truly enjoying it. And with that, just to kind of talk about that quote, I mean, guys, sometimes, right, we have to travel the world just to come back to the spot we first started this journey in, just to understand who the hell we are and what we're set out to do in this world, and realize our personal legend was already within us, right? Like that, this treasure, this kind of, and again, you can take it out of the context of like money and things like that, but it's more about just like becoming this evolved person, right? What do we have to do to be our best selves, right? So we have to learn, we have to expand our comfortability, we have to interact with other people, we have to do new things, we have to do a lot of things, but ultimately we're still us, right? We're just going through all of these, kind of think of yourself as this onion, like we're tearing all these different layers, but we're still the onion. We're still that same entity, that beautiful spirit that is living on this earth, that has a personal legend. And yes, you have a personal legend. She has a personal legend. We all have personal legends, right? What are they? It's up to us to define that, for us to set that out for ourselves. And then it's also up to us to figure out what do we need to do, right? And that's the kicker of this story. He didn't have a clue that he needed to go through all that stuff just to arrive back in Spain where he started, right? And that's what we are going to be experiencing in our life if you haven't already experienced that. That you will go and do crazy different things that you couldn't have imagined. At this stage of my life, I couldn't have even, if you had told me all the things I would learn to do and be able to do now, at 6, I'd have been like, you're nuts. Like, no. At 6, I was going to be a dancer. I was going to be a singer. I was going to write different novels, like all this different. I've always been ambitious, so I've always had like 25 things that I want to do all at once, of course. And so I'm close, getting there. But you don't have a clue. You don't have a freaking clue all the things you're going to do, right? And that is a part of finding your personal legend. So if you don't know what your personal legend is and you want to read more about Santiago's personal legend, you got to pick up the book. Pick up the book. And I suggest the graphic novel because it's just really beautifully drawn. It is, I can tell you the artist's name. Let's see. Opening it up now. So this is by Harper One, and does it list the artist? Let's see. Paulo. Okay, so the other people involved with this book is Daniel Sempri and Derek Ruiz. Yeah. So it's adapted by Derek Ruiz, and the artwork is by Daniel Sempri, and he does an amazing job. Like, it is just beautiful. And it's like a really quick read. I think I read this in like a day, you know, and that's also why I love reading graphic novels, because sometimes you want to go through content, but you don't want to be reading forever. And if you're anything like me, then, you know, you love art, you love imagery, you love kind of seeing stories come to life to you in different ways. So I think it's a really cool read. I think, you know, as you're picking up books for the summer, definitely think about this book. This book was awesome, and I think you'll learn a lot, and I think you'll read in the little speaking bubbles. You'll be like, huh, interesting. Like, it'll just make you really take a step back and think about it. I mean, even from this conversation alone, I'm just like kind of rethinking some of the things that we talked about from Spark Notes. Shout out to Spark Notes. And, you know, I'm kind of taken back by this. So with that, what is next on board for us for the book club? So let me go to dressingroom8.com, and that's where you can always find information about the book club there. You can find all the previous book club meetings there. They're all put onto YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube and you're not already following Dressing Room 8, greatly appreciate your support, boos. Please come on there, like us and share and all of that good stuff. So for June, the next book club meeting, and you know, as you all know, I am moving to Arizona, so it's going to be crazy. It's already crazy in my life right now, but it's going to get even crazier. And so far, the book club is set for later in June. It is, we'll see if I have to adjust the time. Bear with me on times of events and stuff like that, because not only am I moving, but I'm changing time zones. So things will probably have to be adjusted. We shall see. But it's definitely going to be at the end of June. And with the book we're reading, most importantly, because you need to make sure that you cop this ASAP. And it's on the My Recommendations page of dressingroom8.com, and it'll be on the homepage after tomorrow, so that you can, you know, anyone who's interested in getting The Alchemist can finish up and make sure you get that. But this is the next book, guys. So it's called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And if you're not familiar with who she is, she essentially changed the face of medicine. She was a Black woman who apparently, I think, and so yeah, so I can just read the back of it. Her name was Henrietta Lacks, but scientists know her as Gila. She was a poor Black tobacco farmer whose cells taken without knowledge in 1951 became one of the most important tools in medicine, vital for development of the polio vaccine, cloning, gene mapping, and more. Her cells have been kind of, I think, bottled and used and sold by the billions. She remains, you know, someone who probably isn't talked about enough. There was a movie with, I believe, Oprah did an HBO special, I believe. Maybe that was a year or 2 years ago. And yeah, her story, this is a New York Times bestseller, gives a riveting story of kind of the collision between ethics, race, and medicine, of scientific discovery and faith healing, and of a daughter consumed with questions about the mother she never knew. So it's a story that I think is really relevant for everyone. But as a woman of color, I was deeply moved to want to know more about her story and how her unknowing of how they took, you know, medical materials, her cells have changed and transformed so many people's lives. And I felt like a part of my spirit was just called to read it and to really understand and to pay homage to what she's done, because she's probably saved a lot of lives. And, you know, I don't know if her family has been kind of reimbursed for kind of all that was taken from them, but nonetheless, I'm going to read the book. We're going to have the conversation. You can get the book on the My Recommendations page at dressingroom8.com. And my beautiful husband says, "You're right. Yes, thank you, baby." And you are the best hubby ever. Shout out to Khalil. Everybody say hi to Khalil. And with that, we're going to end this conversation. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I greatly appreciate your time and your support. Please, if you watch this in the replay and you have questions, feel free, put them in the comments. I can always come back and talk to you. Again, if you catch this on YouTube, feel free to put comments, thoughts on there as well. And Guys, wish us luck as we make our transition from New York to AZ. What up, Arizona? I hope y'all ready for Natasha and Khalil Nurse. It is going to be amazing. Dressing room mate, super excited. We're all super excited for the change. So thank you all, and I will see you soon. All right, be good. Bye.